Thank you for voting us Yuba Sutter's best in multiple categories, including financial advisor and wealth management firm for the past 5 years. You can find more information at ShawAssociatesInc.com or 530-674-1150. Shaw & Associates is proud to support community radio.
It's a quarter after 7 o'clock, and I saw Dave Shaw over the weekend at the Buckeye. He was in one of the floats there. Jenna, did you go to the Buckeye this weekend?
No, I was at an event Saturday, so I didn't make it.
That's one of the things I wanted to. That's what we call a segue, leading in from one thing into another, because you're busy with your mission, and it's not a religious mission, but it's kind of quasi. You're leading the fight not just in the Yuba Sutter area, but state level and country level against human trafficking. Correct?
I'm one of the many people and many survivor leaders that are in this movement, yes.
But you're a mover and a shaker in it. What I mean is you've taken this is part of your healing, if you will.
Yeah, it's definitely puts my pain to purpose.
Yeah,
okay.
That's good words.
Pain to purpose, I love that. That'd be a great title for a book. You are, speaking of which, an author, correct?
I have a book that I've been working on for some time, and it's getting close to publishing, so.
Yeah. You've also got a couple other irons in the fire, like a documentary.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me about that.
So this is cool. A lot of times people ask, how can we get involved? What can we do to help? So this is a great way that this is open to the public. Not everything is. And I got to go last summer to an ashram in Texas and spend some time with these amazing monks and learn to meditate from them, and it was an incredible experience. And they do incredible work, and they travel around the world and make documentary films about human trafficking. Their first film was Stopping Traffic. This is their second film called Surviving Sex Trafficking. And we'll be hosting a screening at the Tower Theater in Sacramento, April 11th. It's a Monday night. It's at 7 p.m. It's worth making the trip. It's worth coming out on a Monday night.
Are you featured in it at all?
I consulted on this film.
Okay.
But afterwards, we will have a panel discussion with myself, my program director, and Detective Rounds locally, and we'll be talking about the film and answering questions and hoping to get a large audience there. It's important.
What are the questions you always get when it comes to human trafficking? Of course, they'll say you'll want to tell your story in that, but what are the questions you get?
Well, it depends if I'm speaking as a professional doing this work or if I'm speaking as a survivor. So questions as a survivor, which I advocate against, is, why didn't you run? Why didn't you call 911? Why didn't you do this? And what that does is it puts blame on the victim and survivor and makes them feel like they have to defend themselves for a crime that was committed against them. Mm-hmm. And if we understand human trafficking and force, fraud, and coercion, we understand why they don't reach out for help right away. It's not that they want to be there. It's that they're involved in a world, and the trafficker is very good at manipulating and brainwashing the victim and keeping them there and making them very scared to reach out. A lot of questions, tons of questions, but it varies on the audience I'm speaking to, whether it's law enforcement, hospital staff, or schools. But I've heard a lot of statements over the last 7 years of doing this work in the community of that doesn't happen here and that couldn't happen to my kid.
Is that the biggest thing you're fighting right now? Is the perception that, we're insulated from that because we don't have these smash and grabs at the big city, that kind of crime. But we have this other human trafficking. It's just under the radar.
Yeah, it's kind of this underground world, and people, we're so busy with our own lives, we don't think it happens here, or we don't want to think it happens here. And that's really being part of the problem and not part of the solution. So my responsibility is to educate you guys and say, this does happen, this is what it looks like, and this is how we respond in a trauma-informed way. Our language is important. How we talk about it is important. And also to be a voice for those that are currently being victimized. My story is their story. That's not the end for them. There's hope, and there is a healing journey. And
It's almost like being captive in plain sight.
Yeah.
Because not everyone is kept secluded, I don't think.
No, it doesn't quite look like it does in other countries. It can, but domestic trafficking here in America, it's really not kidnapping, snatching them off the street. Right. It's force, fraud, and coercion. It's luring kids. It's grooming them. Traffickers will prey on the vulnerability that every kid or every adult has and use that to exploit them.
Well, like you said earlier, off camera, these are used quite a bit to allure.
I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah, technology.
Not just to lure, but it's also a marketplace. This is how in my opinion, they should go after the Johns. I mean, that would cut it off at the knee.
But then that's also for the parents to get more involved in their kids' technical, online, be more aware, because it's you don't know what you're, I'm still doing hunt and peck, my both thumbs, and it's like, wow, yeah. And
I see things on TikTok, and it's just
exactly.
I don't understand it all, and I think that's the biggest thing is, as we as parents and grandparents, we would love to fight against this, but we don't know the tools and we don't know what's being used, and that's your job.
Yeah, and there's 3 parts. So talking, what you just mentioned, talking to kids, educating them. We teach them stop, drop, and roll, what to do in a fire, look both ways before you cross the street, all these dangers that there are to be aware of. Well, let's teach them about other things that are happening too, like being groomed on the internet, and that there are sexual predators and traffickers that are very good at this and are.
What should we look for? I'm sorry for breaking in, but what should we look for? Talk about grooming. Talk about somebody maybe buying them over-the-top presents, bling, if you will, trying to spoil them.
Yeah, really just befriending them. Sometimes I'll be your boyfriend, looking for what they are wanting in their life, a void that's not being met at home or school or in their whatever their life looks like, and preying on that and slowly building their trust, luring them away, and then pushing boundaries and then exploiting and trafficking them.
David Reed just chimed in. Yuba Sutter Arts and Culture. You've got an event coming up later this month?
Yeah. So March 25th and 26th, there's a play, Out to Pasture, that will be at the Sutter Theater on Plymouth Street.
Yeah.
Thanks to him, we get to play that. That's at 7 p.m. on the 26th and 2 p.m. on the 27th. It's a Saturday and Sunday. And some of the proceeds from that will go to the Jenna McKay Foundation, and I'll be there to talk.
The Jenna McKay Foundation. This is, like I said, you're the battler. You're the knight in shining armor, if you will, leading the fight. But the biggest fight is getting the word out and making people aware of it. Sure. And it's something people aren't comfortable in talking about, are they?
No.
And because you hear this phrase, human trafficking. That is, what is human trafficking, I guess? Tell me.
Yeah, well, before I go into that, it's uncomfortable to talk about, but it's more uncomfortable for the people that are surviving it. So we have a responsibility to get a little uncomfortable and talk about it. I'm totally comfortable talking about these things. I do it all the time. So if you're uncomfortable talking to your kids about it, or the school or whatever, I will come and do that, because I have no problem getting a little uncomfortable. But human trafficking is forcing somebody to have sex or do labor through force, fraud, and coercion. If they're under 18, that doesn't have to be at play. They're a victim of child sex trafficking or child labor trafficking.
You say force, fraud, and coercion. Force, how do they do that? Are you talking about if you don't do this, we will hurt your family kind of thing?
Yeah, that's kind of the coercion part, the threats. Fraud, hey, you're so beautiful, you should come be a model. Trafficked, or hey, come to America, work this job. And then labor trafficked. Force can be physically restraining somebody, holding them down, keeping them there.
Seems like, go ahead.
I was going to say, Jenna, are the public schools open to having like a what do you call it, when you go to the gym and have an open?
Yeah, so actually Wednesday I'm training Marysville Joint Unified School District. I'm doing 2 different trainings, and that'll be for all the staff. Which is important, so they can recognize high-risk kids.
I think the word I want to use was rally. They used to have rallies where you could have somebody come into the gym and the whole school would be in there listening to a presentation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so part of that, I would love to do that. So not just training the staff, but then to speak to the students and get them educated.
Jenna, it seems like there should be laws against this.
Yes, there should. Better laws.
Why isn't there? Why isn't there? This harkens back to the slavery. sexual slavery.
It's,
if you will.
it's modern day slavery.
Right.
Tell me about it. What are there laws in place, and are you advocating for more? And how do we, do we stand at the steps of the state capitol and yell at them? We need better laws. What can we do? What are the laws?
So, currently in the state of California, human trafficking is a nonviolent, non-serious crime. So there's an amazing senator, Senator Grove, and District Attorney Cynthia Zimmer and Tyson McCoy down in Kern County, and they are leading this to pass SB 1042, which will make it a violent crime in California. And what that means is it'll be a felony strike on California's 3-strike law, which means harsher penalties for traffickers. And so I think we can all get on board that we would want justice for victims, whether they're children or adults, that send them the message that the law is on their side and that selling people is not okay.
Did this used to be a violent crime before they had those realignment of the law, of Prop 42 things?
No, this law, they've been trying to pass it, and they've tried to pass it in the past, and it hasn't gotten past the committee. So this time, we need public awareness and public support.
Well, the public awareness we've been trying for 40 or 50 years. I've mentioned off air about that movie called Hardcore from 1979 with George C. Scott, and his daughter gets involved. Daughter goes on a trip to Disneyland and gets caught by a pimp, if you will, because that's what a human trafficking is, a pimp, right?
Yeah, pimp and trafficker.
Right.
Pimping and traffic. Okay, and the whole thing about it's. We've been trying to get the word across. What do you think it's going to take? I mean, in America, it takes a tragedy, if you will, or is it just steady talking about it?
Yeah, it shouldn't take surviving it or your child surviving it or your family surviving it to care. The human trafficking, it's kind of like domestic violence and child abuse and drinking and driving, right? All these issues that cause a lot of harm and long-term harm. So, getting on board, understanding it, and then rallying around it. And you can't just say, oh, yeah, I care. How's it going? Good job. Keep going. There has to be community effort constantly. Being educated, training our first responders, providing trauma-informed care. And then once the victim is out of it, life isn't just wonderful because they're free. It's a healing journey that needs a lot of professionals that are willing to take the time and effort to work with them.
That was my next point. You are a survivor of human trafficking. If we could talk about that real quick.
Yeah.
And my question before we went off on air was, how do you look at men the same way? It's kind of like I feel a sense of guilt by association just because I'm a male and things like this. How do you? I don't want to say move on, because you don't. I mean, this is something you deal with your entire life, right?
Well, there's good men and there's bad men, and there's men that buy sex and traffic women, but there's men that are healthy, and I work with men that are healthy, and I'm dating a man that's healthy. I'm raising a son that's healthy. I have healthy men in my family, right? So not everybody's a bad guy.
No, but how? It just seems like it would be tainted. Myself, if I'm trying to put myself in that situation.
Well, that's doing the hard work. I survived this 16 years ago, and I've put a lot of hard work into recovering and overcoming that trauma, and living a healthy life, and understanding that doesn't have to be part of my everyday life.
If that pimp only knew that he basically pissed you off. Okay, what I mean is, and because of that trauma in your life, you've been able to save countless. When I say save, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, was there a time in your life that you asked yourself, what could I have done differently that this wouldn't have happened to me?
Well,
Probably
it wasn't
every day.
so much what I could have done differently. It was what my community could have done differently.
okay.
Because I was a kid. I was 17, 18. I hadn't even graduated high school. And I was a star athlete, headed to play college volleyball. I was a good kid. I went to a private Christian school. Really not a super high-risk kid. But I did have vulnerabilities. And my trafficker wasn't somebody that necessarily is your typical trafficker. And he lured me out and then was exploited right there in my community, 15 minutes from my home, 15 minutes from my private Christian school. They had an opportunity to see signs, prevent it from happening, or when it was happening, to intervene and say, something is off here. What do we do?
Right.
And then when I reached out for help, when I did get away.
What were those signs, if you could?
So, well, that's all in the training. That's a lot. But, for me personally, I was a buff athlete, and now I was 100 pounds. Physically, you could see I had a branding, various stages of bruising.
Signs that teachers should have picked up on?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
kind of like abuse at home.
Or
With,
parents.
I wasn't in high school anymore, but there were signs that you have this girl headed to play college volleyball, and then all of a sudden she's gone. Where is everybody going? Something's off here.
so having your peer group around you, they also should see signs of, if you're close with a group of people and they see something drastically change, go from left to right.
Because you don't know whether it's drugs, you don't know whether, like you said, human trafficking. It could be both, and in fact, drugs are probably a big part of this. And what's interesting to me is where do these people learn how to do this?
Well, they're groomed also, I think.
That's what I mean. Is it?
It's a learned behavior.
Is it because of the, I don't know, say rap music or whatever you want to call it? There's so many influences that. How does somebody learn how to do this? I mean, they learn in jail? Is that what it is?
It's a culture, right?
Culture?
It's a if you start getting involved with people that are in this world, and traffickers want to make money. So sometimes they go from drug trafficking. A drug you can only sell once. A human you can sell over and over again, and there's more money there.
That's a very good point. Not a good point, it's a salient point.
Yeah.
This is very upsetting to me, Jenna.
It should. We should get upset, and then we should. So going back to the bill.
Yeah, SB 1042.
SB 1042.
Is this something we can sign in front of Walmart?
No, but I have the link, and I will share that with you. Thankfully, I don't have to go stand in front of Walmart and get people to sign. But if you go to the Jenna McKay Foundation Facebook page, I have posted the link. You click on it, you put your name, you put where you live, and you submit it. It takes 30 seconds, and that helps shows public support. You don't have to be a resident in California. You don't have to be over 18. Anybody can sign from anywhere, and that helps us as we move this bill forward next month to the committee, that Californians and everybody wants traffickers to be held accountable for their crimes.
Are they listening at the state level? Are they going to be? Do you think this law, SB 1042, has a pretty good chance of passing?
Or getting on the ballot even?
Yeah.
I hope so. I hope doing the community awareness helps. That's what is needed. That's what wasn't done last time. I just saw, the Sacramento DA on Saturday at an event, and we talked about it, and she supports it. And
she's a go-getter too.
Yeah, she's great. And
future Attorney General.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we, I mean, look, they've tried to pass this before, so there's this loss of hope. The bill will die if we don't get the community support on it, and that's why I'm saying, if you care about this, and you should, and it shouldn't have to happen to you or your kid for you to care about this. This is a human issue. This is in our community. This is in our state. Then sign this petition and show up for the documentary films. Show up to all these events that are public, and get educated, learn, and make a difference.
Jenna, if I could impose upon you, on the off chance that somebody listening right now or watching on our Facebook page is in the throes of this, what would you say to that person? What hope could you provide that person that they have? There are resources out there for them.
Well, my story is their story. So if I can make it out and live a happy, full life, so can they. It's hard, takes hard work. I understand that. But it's one step at a time, and it's worth it. And there are community people and professionals that care and that will help you.
What steps? Do they call the police? Is that the first step? Or are there a foundation, like the Jenna McKay Foundation?
Yeah, so the human trafficking hotline is 888-373-7888. And so if you're listening from anywhere, you can call that number and receive the support and help that you need. They'll connect them to that.
What number again was that?
888-373-7888.
Okay.
And locally, yes, the Jenna McKay Foundation, we can help connect victims to resources that they need. we like to provide them with horse therapy. That's a therapy that's super healing, and we will pay for that. And if you go to JennaMcKay.com, you can read more about that.
And of course, bus tickets back home too. Eventually.
Yes, and sometimes they need to go back to where they're from. Sometimes they need to be relocated to a safe house. Every story is different. Every situation is different. It's just
The Jenna McKay. I'm sorry, Jenna McKay Foundation.com. Is that what it is?
JennaMcKay.com.
JennaMcKay.com, and join the fight, if you will.
SB 1042.
SB 1042. Look for that documentary. It's being screened down at the Tower Theater. When is that?
April 11th.
April 11th. And also later this month, 25th and 26th, over at the Sutter Theater, the play. Proceeds, portion of the proceeds go to help awareness. When you say, go to help fight or go to human trafficking, it's one of those things to go to help fight it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Awareness is the biggest thing you can do.
Awareness, education, and then supporting victims and survivors.
Jenna, thank you very much.
Yeah.
It's an emotional thing you do. I don't know how you do it. You're a warrior.
Yeah.
You're like Brienne of Tarth. It's a Game of Thrones reference there, if you know what I'm talking about. Anyways, thank you very much, Jenna.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
I don't know what your beliefs are. To me, it doesn't really matter. What you're doing is God's work, in my opinion.
There you go.
This community interview is made possible by Shaw and Associates.
I'm Dave Shaw, President and CEO of Shaw & Associates. For over 65 years, Shaw & Associates has been your trusted local expert for wealth management, tax, accounting, and payroll. Thank you for voting us Yuba Sutter's best in multiple categories, including financial advisor and wealth management firm for the past 5 years. You can find more information at ShawAssociatesInc.com or 530-674-1150. Shaw & Associates is proud to support